Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well, the men whom I've learned this truth from, and also Shalom and salutations to the brothers out there of the hopeful elect that are preaching this word in truth and sincerity. Alright, so I'm the brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal, back with another impromptu and transit lesson. And this lesson, that I'm going to be getting into today, it's basically going to be going into the fact that, the Lord, He's the ultimate movie director, right? And the life that we live has already been predestinated for us, man. And that's for each and every individual that's on the earth, man. Whether you're righteous, whether you're wicked, whether you're whatever you are, man. But your life is already laid out in front of you, right? It's already predestined for you, right? And that's also the case with salvation, right? There's spirits that are here on the earth today that are already predestined to be delivered, right? But could you get mad? Could you get mad at the one that made the movie and already predestinating the role of particular characters? Nah, man, you can't get mad. Why? Because the one that's creating the movie has the ultimate power to do whatever he wants, man. And that's the case with Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, right? And the Lord also deals with character development for each and every individual on the earth, right? And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, which that also ties into predestination, right? That character development. Because as infants, we're, a newborn child or whatever, they go through the stages of what? Adolescence, preteens, teens, and then adults, right? Young adults and then mature adults. But throughout those phases, right, your character is being developed, man. Your character is being developed to fit its role. You're growing into your purpose on the earth, right? And that purpose could either be a righteous purpose or a wicked purpose, man. Right? But ultimately, you're gonna end up in your lot, right? Whatever that may be. So let me get this real quick in the book of Daniel, chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand, right? So this is concerning the last days, which we're in right now. So many are going to be purified and made white. Many are going to be, when you look up that word purified, it says cleanse, right? Many are going to be made clean, made pure, and made white. What does that mean? Many are going to be made righteous, man. Many are going to be turned from wickedness to righteousness, right? Which also going to show that, your character can be developed, right? Because, for example, us, the men that are in this truth right now, we were once in the world doing all manner of wickedness, whatever that may be, But guess what? Once we, were introduced to this truth, that was our true calling, right? And then we were what? We were purified and made white, man. We were cleansed all over again. We were reborn back into our specified lot, and that was to be righteous and serve the Most High, man. Right? But then it goes on to say, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand, right? And if your lot is to be wicked, you're gonna be wicked, and there's nothing you could do to escape not being wicked, right? Case in point, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, right? There's nothing that he could do to try to do right, to try to be a righteous person, right? He would be out of character by doing that, man, by trying to be righteous. Why? Because the Lord programmed him to be wicked. That's how his spirit was made, right? So let's go from there. To the book of Daniel. Chapter 12 and verse 13, it says, but go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of days, right? So Daniel, he was a servant of the Most High, a prophet, in other words, right? And each and every time Daniel was reborn or reincarnated, he would fall back into that same lot, into that same purpose, right? His character would develop into being a prophet, because that's what he was created to be, right? And that precept is going to show that, right? Matter of fact, let me get something real quick. Revelation, not John. Right, so this is Revelation 10 and verse 10, right? And this is concerning John. It says, and I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up. That book is the scriptures, right? The Bible. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. Right, going into the digestion of this truth, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures. Right, at first, it's sweet, it's pleasant to your mind. Why? Because you find out who you are, what the true name of the Heavenly Father is, what the true name of His Son is. You find out that you're special, you're better than other people, other nations, to be specific, right? So that information is sweet, but then there's a bitter aspect to that information as well, which you also have to digest, right? And that bitter aspect is that, hey, you don't know. Well, the bitter aspect is that, you don't know if you're going to be saved or delivered from the coming destruction, right? Because there is a coming destruction and an impending danger. You don't know. All you can do is hope, and that's somewhat bitter, right? And your family members, they can't come into this truth. You can't force or make family members come into this truth. That's not up to you. That's up to the Heavenly Father, right? So you don't know if they're gonna make it or not. That's bitter as well, right? So things like that are bitter. When you digest those things, those are bitter, right? Continuing on, it says, verse 11, and he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings, right? So John, after he died, right, the angel said he's gonna prophesy again, but this time before many people, nations, tongues, and kings, right? And how is that fulfilled? That's fulfilled through John being reincarnated back in these last days, man. You know, because John, he was stuck in the island of Patmos. There was no record of him leaving. So how did he prophesy before many people and nations and tongues and kings, man? That only makes sense if he was reincarnated back into another time, right? And that time is now, right? But also going to show you that John, you know, was once a prophet and will always be a prophet, right? And the last precept I'm going to paraphrase is, the spirit of the prophets is subject to the prophets, right? So whatever you are, whatever your spirit was meant to be, no matter what, you're always going to develop, you're always going to develop into that position or lot that the Heavenly Father has ordained for you, man. You know? And there's nothing you can do, right? Another quick example I can give before I end off the lesson is when you take a look at an NFL team or a football team, right? Players really do not decide on what position they get to play, right? And that in itself goes to show you the Heavenly Father's power, right? Because the Lord can have it where you have particular attributes to fit only a specific role on a football team, right? For example, an O-lineman. An O-lineman, you know, is the front line, the protector of the quarterback, right? But that position can only be filled by a person that weighs a particular amount and is built a particular way, right? You can't be skinny and be an O-lineman, right? You know, but guess what? The Lord can have it to where you develop and have lived your whole life to be an O-lineman, man. And you know, 250 something, 300 pounds. You had a particular diet and whatever, but you can't be a quarterback if you're an O-lineman, because the Lord developed you into becoming an O-lineman, man. You know, or a D-lineman or whatever, man. Right? So you can't have a desire to want to be another position because that doesn't fit you. You know, it won't fit you. You can't be a wide receiver. You're too slow. You're too heavy. You know? But that's just a quick example, if that makes sense, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. You know, so Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Call halal Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakodash. Until next time, Shalom.